Welcome back to the shop. This week we're going to be talking about gear. I recently had a need to replace my pants, and so I thought it was a good chance to go ahead and review this Bilt Explorer Air pants and jacket combination that I have. The pants have gotten to a point where they needed to be replaced. I'll talk about why that was and why I decided to go ahead and replace it with the exact same set of gear a second time around. So if you're in the market for gear, if you're thinking about gear, this is definitely an option that I would recommend at least considering, and I'll caveat that as we go through this with a few specific scenarios that you might want to take into consideration as you're shopping. So hopefully you'll find this video informative and helpful. And as always, if you like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, be sure to click that subscribe button and share this video on social media. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started with, first of all, why I had to replace the pants. It's not really a fault of these pants themselves. It's more the fact that I ride with motocross boots. Because of that, most of your adventure style pants are not going to be designed to fit around a boot that is that big at the top. I do wear these over them, so it tends to put a lot of stress on this seam here, and after 3 years, this seam did actually give way. Now what I'm going to try and do, I think, is find a seamstress and have them put like a suede insert, let this out a little bit on the pair that are already ripped, and then depending on how that goes, I might actually have the same thing done on the new pair that I bought. Price-wise, I think this gear is a really good deal. You can get the pants and the jacket combination for right around or just over $300 shipped to your door. If you wait for sales and coupons and things like that, you can probably get it for exactly $300. I've been riding with this gear for about 3 years now and probably about 20 to 25,000 miles. So personally, I feel that it's held up really well given its price point, and even if I did wind up having to get rid of these if they're not able to be repaired, I still would be pretty pleased with the money that was spent and how long it lasted. Moving on from price, one thing that I'll add in here is that I was not happy with the armor that came in the gear. So it comes with the, I think it's CE level 2 kind of stiff black protection. So one of the first things that I did is I actually went online and I ordered up some of the nice D3O flexible. This stuff gets hard on impact. Really, really great stuff. I've had a tree limb catch my knee as I was riding through woods, and it did harden up instantly, felt nothing in my knee. But then when you're riding along, it's nice and soft and gives you a lot of flexibility and comfort. So I highly recommend the D3O armor regardless of what jacket pants you may be running if they didn't already come with it. Most of these modern gear setups have the pockets that host them, so you can buy these and insert them into your existing jacket or pants, and that's what I would recommend. They're relatively cheap if you shop around. I think you can find a set of the knees for about 20 bucks and then the same for the elbow. The back protector is obviously going to be a little bit more, but you can buy all of that and insert it into this Bilt Explorer Air gear or whatever gear you may already have. And again, the comfort factors and the protection that these offer, I think is a great combination. So a high recommendation there. Let's move on to how I wound up with this gear. I was shopping for gear, and quite honestly, I was ready to spend a heck of a lot more money. I was looking at the climb gear. Climb gear can run thousands of dollars very easily. And like most people, I think, in the adventure world, I was looking at Gore-Tex because of the water resistance and things like that. However, even the best Gore-Tex, if it's over 100 degrees with a high humidity, it's going to be very, very difficult to stay cool. Most style jackets that I found had pockets on the chest that would unflap and roll down and allow venting there. But I really wanted a gear that would give me a very, very broad range of uses in terms of temperatures. And I was willing to be a little bit less comfortable on the colder sides or the rainy, wet sides, and find a compromise that I felt worked really well. And that's what actually led me to this, not the price. When I went shopping, I found a bunch of gear, and a lot of it is set up for a very broad range of conditions, except for the hot weather. And living here in the Midwest, it does get very, very humid. I like to ride on those days, and it is near impossible unless the gear is full mesh to stay cool in those conditions, especially if you're going off-road or having to pick the motorcycle up. So I found this stuff, and it was the only mesh gear, full mesh gear, jacket and pants that I could find that then also offered the layered lining system that I felt was adequate in combination with my heated gear to kind of give me the full gamut of all the various temperatures and conditions that I might ride in. And although it's not 100% rainproof, it gives me enough capacity that I can ride in all those conditions and at least to deal with it. So these pants come with the mesh outer shell and then a 2-liner inner system, insulated liner and a wind/rain liner. I've ridden in pretty dramatic wet conditions. If you watch the Trans-Wisconsin trip that I did a couple years ago, this was the gear that I had on, and absolutely I was not dry. However, in those conditions, riding for that long, there's not a lot of gear on the market that will keep you dry in those conditions and also still be comfortable in the 100+ degree temperatures. So that's why personally I really like the liner system. The other reason why I personally like the liner system is because you don't have to carry separate jackets or pants. You can fold these up. They come relatively small once they're rolled up, and you can stick them in your saddlebags, your tank bag, the rabbit pouch on the jacket, any place that you can store them. And so it offers a lot of flexibility. Then what I did to cover the more extreme cold temperatures is I bought the hot wire heated gear, and I will run that underneath that. So between all of this, I can go from really, really extreme heat to pretty cold, and I can deal with the wet weather. Again, it is not ideal in those wet weather scenarios, but it will keep you dry enough that you can make it through the day. And then the other advantage to this liner system is if it does get wet, you can separate all the various layers. And when you do that, they will independently dry much faster than something that's all combined into one, especially with the outer shell being mesh. It's gonna dry the quickest. The rain liner, that one's also gonna dry pretty quick. The one that's gonna take the longest amount of time is your insulated liner. But if you're fortunate, the rain won't continue for multiple days and you can let some of those layers dry, recombine them to make a comfortable combination while that insulated liner continues to dry. I'm not here to convince anybody of the liner system. It's one of those situations where either you like it or you don't. I'm not going to convince anyone who doesn't like liner systems to switch over to one. Again, this is just my personal setup, one that I've liked and one that I've ridden with for a couple of years and one that I purchased a second time around because I was happy enough with it. So now that we've covered the liners, let me go ahead and just move those out of the way and move these other pants out of the way. And what we'll do next is we'll cover, some of the key features, some of the things that I really like and some of the things that I don't like about the pants. And then we'll move on from there into the jacket. Honestly, one of the only areas of this gear that I have not liked so far is the fact that the cut is not big enough for motocross boots. But again, this is not an exclusive problem to Bilt Explorer Air gear. It's pretty common amongst all adventure gear because most people do not ride with MX boots. They ride with adventure boots, which have a much smaller top piece, and these will fit around those perfectly fine with no problems. The abrasion resistance, so if you're gonna go skidding down the road, I'm not sure how well any mesh gear of any kind is going to hold up. So again, if you're doing those high speeds, lots of road miles, this may not be the gear choice for you, but then again, in those scenarios, I probably wouldn't recommend any mesh gear of any kind. It just can't hold up the same way as other materials. So, having said that though, it is relatively strong, has a decent rating. I'm not concerned riding with it. With the D3O armor loaded in there, I feel perfectly comfortable with the impact and abrasion resistance for the riding that I do. The waistband is a style with both a zipper latch and also these Velcro adjustments to keep it nice and tight. I personally really like that. One of the other big things that I really like about this combination is it has the zipper that connects the jacket to the pants. If you've ever done a track day with two-piece gear, you'll know that this is a really big deal because if the two pieces don't zip together and you were to have a crash, they can become separated and leave you with road rash in the exposed area where the two come apart. So personally, I really like that. Lots of pockets, so 2 pockets here, 2 pockets here, plenty of room for storage. In fact, with this combination of the pants and the jacket, I honestly find myself with too many pockets and oftentimes lose track of where I put various items. So get a system, stick to it. That's my recommendation. Always put your wallet or whatever in the same pocket every time. That'll help with that problem. But again, overly happy with this entire gear setup, and that is the overview of the Explorer Air pants. We'll move on to the Explorer Air jacket. Okay, so moving on to the Explorer Air jacket, same concept here. It is all mesh. There are a few panels where there is not mesh, but they are very few and far between. Again, the predominant reason why I got this was for those really hot days, and then seeing how far I could go in the opposite extreme. Similar to the pants, when I combine this with the liner system, and then I also combine it with my heated gear, it covers, again, that same very broad range. I have had this jacket about the same amount of time. In fact, the exact same amount of time as the pants. I bought the two together. They have the same age and mileage on them. The jacket has held up extremely well, in my opinion. There are a few things that are just kind of starting to fray, little seams, stitchings here and there. The biggest problem that I've had with this gear in terms of the quality is really just around where these liners snap in. So they use this tiny little strap, and what you'll see, if I can find an example for you here, like this one, what you'll notice is that, especially on this insulated liner, that seems to be the most problematic one, the stitching does start to come apart and that little flap will eventually give way. Now, it's not the end of the world because that's really just a convenience factor. It snaps in, and then it also zips in on the inside of this jacket. So even if you didn't have those snaps anymore, the liner's still gonna stay put. Everything's still gonna work fine. It's a little disappointing that those are coming apart, but again, this gear has been relatively abused over the past 3 years. You know, I'm constantly changing liners depending on weather conditions. I'm not ever careful in terms of how quickly or how slowly I pull the liners in and out. I'm usually trying to just get through the ride itself. And again, the gear is cheap enough that I'm not worried about things like that. So that's another advantage to me, is when you don't spend a lot of money, you don't have to worry about taking extreme care. This has been through rainy, it's been through hot, it's been through cold. So overall, again, I'm extremely happy with it, and would highly recommend, if you're into this style of gear setup and you're looking for mesh, to definitely consider these options. Other than those tabs coming off, there's really absolutely no damage at all to this jacket. It has adjustable waist straps, so you can cinch it in nice and tight. It has snaps for the arms. Those are really convenient because, again, with the liner system, as you layer up, obviously you'll need to let those out, and then when you layer down, you'll need to tighten them up so that they keep the elbow pads in place. Same concept here. I would pull the armor that comes in it, order up your D3O, stick it in those pockets, as well as the very, very soft raw foam back protector that comes in here. So all of those armor pieces, both pants and jacket, I would highly recommend replacing with the D3O armor. The jacket, like most adventure jackets, has an overabundance of pockets. Same problem I talked about before. Remembering where you put stuff is the biggest challenge. You have these two pockets here, and they are not mesh, so this is the only part of the jacket that's not mesh because they're designed to be water resistant. Don't claim for a second that these are waterproof, but they do have a water resistant liner so that if you're down to this layer and you get caught in rain and you have something in these pockets, that it won't get drenched. There are also inner pockets. The inner pockets, again, this is a little bit of a tricky area because as you layer up, if you're putting stuff inside the pockets, you may take a liner out and your phone is still in the liner that you took off. Every layer has its inner pocket and another inner pocket. So that can be a bit of a challenge, again, just to keep track of where you're placing items as you add or remove layers, because if you put the phone in this inside pocket as you add a layer, obviously it's going to be impossible to get to that without unzipping the liner. However, they've thought that through with this other pocket here, which is on the outside of all of your layering systems. So if you were to put your phone in here, as you add or reduce layers, you'll always have access to that one. So kind of nice forward thinking on their part there. The sleeves do have a Velcro mechanism. This is personally one of my complaints. Most guys may not have this problem. As you can see, I have relatively thin wrists. So even on like the tightest setting, to get them to hug my wrist, leaves a lot of flap and very little Velcro. so they will tend to, you know, kind of with the wind, open up on me sometimes. I think that problem could also be solved again if you just took it to a seamstress and maybe did some more of that micro Velcro or something along those lines. Flipping the jacket over, it does have a built-in back piece for a Camelback system, and the feed tube or the drink tube coming right out of this hole here. That was another nice feature that I really liked when I first bought this jacket, because I didn't want to have to layer another Camelback. However, I will say, after having ridden with one in this pouch, I would probably still go ahead and add my Camelback Backpack. The reason for that is what happens is a Camelback Backpack is obviously designed and in a way that the harness system distributes the weight very evenly, even with a very full Camelback. Because this is just built into the jacket, because the jacket has the layer system, it has to fit a little bit looser in some scenarios when you're all the way down to no layers. And so because of that, the weight distribution when you put a Camelback bladder inside this jacket pocket here is it doesn't distribute the weight quite as evenly. I felt the jacket would kind of tug and almost choke me a little bit. The trick to that is if you don't want to carry a backpack, you can still do it. My recommendation is just don't fill the bladder all the way up. What I found is a half-filled bladder in this pocket works perfectly fine and no issues. You don't get any of that tugging or any of those items. However, a full bladder will do that. So if you want to run with one of those, then again, I would recommend going ahead and carrying your Camelback backpack with you. The rabbit pouch on the back is also water resistant. Again, not waterproof, but you can stick your liners in there when they're not in use. That's a very convenient location if you're like me, and as you travel, your bags just tend to accumulate various things as you stop and pick up additional bottles of waters and things like that. You start to run out of room. So having this little extra pouch in a pinch to stick those liners is a really great option. So once again, this jacket has held up really, really nice. I'm really happy with it. In fact, I am probably going to go ahead, since I had to go with the sand color due to availability on the pants, I will probably order up a new one of these just to color coordinate. Yes, I know it's a bit ridiculous, but I don't care. It's relatively cheap and I want the two to match. I'm hoping, and I haven't ridden enough yet, that maybe the tan color might help a little bit more even with heat, because obviously black does absorb heat. Only time will tell with that. I haven't ridden enough yet, and I don't know that the pants are as much of an issue there for me personally as the jacket is. The jacket is where I retain a lot of heat. My upper body gets really hot when I'm riding in those conditions. So if I do go with that, I'll report back and let you guys know if that tan color did in fact make any difference at all in terms of temperature of the jacket. But again, all of this gear here in combination with the hot wire liners, in my opinion, is a very, very good setup. It's very reasonably priced and it lasts relatively well considering its price point. So if you spend twice as much and it lasts twice as long, it's a net of the same. So for me personally, $300, 3 years, that's $100 a year that I've spent on gear, and it's not as though this is completely toast. The pants are probably repairable and the jacket is still in good shape. So all in all, I just can't say enough good things about this gear. I was pleasantly surprised by it, and again, I went with it purely originally because of the features and what I liked about the setup of the gear, not because of price. I was looking at much more expensive stuff, but now that I've had it, I'm happy that I didn't spend that extra money, because this is suiting my needs perfectly fine and I'm extremely happy with it. So hopefully if you're in the market for gear, this will be helpful to think about and consider as you're looking at options. And if you've liked this video, again, give it that thumbs up. And if you know somebody else that will benefit from seeing this as they're shopping for their gear, please share that with them. Until next time, take care and ride safe.